Evening. All right, what we're going to do today is, this is a tactic that is basically called tank spam. If you can guess what it is, then good on you. But that's it, it's basically spamming tanks. But again, let me just explain to you, when I do these videos, I do actually set out with a bit of a kind of production schedule. I know it's not just some kind of rambling gibberings of a lunatic. I do actually think to myself, right, what do I want to try and achieve today? What would be funny? What would maybe people want to see? And I think we had this agreement with this squad, ran with this squad all night, by the way, and it was just hilarious, really good stuff. And we basically were just going to go and spam tanks. So that was the plan, but we decided, obviously I'm running around in my shotgun. I wanted to include this footage just because I get a lot of people asking me, you know, is shotgunning still broken? How's the controllers? You know, how are you finding it with, you know, have you fixed it yet? And I've got to say probably the answer is yes. I think I've not had any issues with controlling the game like I used to. The shotgun seems a lot more manageable, and again, all I did was set it to the sensitivity to 50 and basically just set my mouse DPI to the lowest setting. So I don't know, maybe that seemed to fix it, I'm not sure, but I've got to admit, shotgunning is particularly nice at the moment. Anyway, let's talk about this tactic called tank spam. Now again, this really does rely, if you saw my previous video, the one about the Seeker Militia fit, you know, I've been rolling them pretty much exclusively every round now, last night particularly. And I think really what was surprising to me was how good they are. And I think, you know, when you've got a tank that's quite disposable, you're quite bold with it as well. So I think there's something to be said about these militia fits. Don't disregard them. I mean, we were taking out Madrugas, and we even killed an enforcer, so that was pretty decent. But I would stress they are absolutely hilarious fun. And as you can see, we're just into the map and we got our first orbital. This was mainly due to the fact that we had, you know, tanks. We had a couple of our people in the tanks gunning, and it just, you know, when you've got that combination with an order on you, you start to really, you know, literally piss command points. Excuse my French. And I think really this is a tactic that I think is questionable. Again, it's not MCC sniping, so don't flame me too much, but I think tank spam is something that can be incredibly powerful, but it can also go the other way, because, you know, obviously we're pushing here, we just pushed them all the way back to the red line and beyond. But what I would say is pretty impressive is, you know, the ability for tanks, I think, just to absolutely inspire fear. I mean, you know, we just had, well, I think actually at this point we have 4 tanks in and one's up on the ridge, we've got 3 down here. And all we were doing was basically just pushing them back. Now, again, a lot of people may moan about this tactic, and I agree with you. I don't like redlining like this. I would much rather have a stand-up fight. But at the end of the day, you know, if we pull back, you know, the blueberries won't. So this is always the challenge with this kind of gameplay. It's a bit, I don't know, I don't like it that much. But it's worth showing because, again, just the power of these tanks, and everybody seems to rely very heavily on LAVs. LAVs are nothing when you compare it to a tank. Tanks are just absolutely the best conveyance you can get out there. And, you know, when they're as cheap as this, I think this tank's running me about 178k, I think it was. It's just unbelievable fun. And you think about it, one of my shotgunning suits is about 120k. And I lose 6 or 7 of them around sometimes. So I think a tank just makes perfect sense, doesn't it? It's actually pretty fun as well. Plus you've got some gunners with you who get you points, you know. So it kind of does make a lot of sense just to have these Seeker builds. And I wanted to include, I mean, this whole video I think is just to really promote that some more, particularly with new players, because V for Victory really knows his stuff about tanks, and he was basically saying that fresh out the academy, if you go and get maybe another 30,000 points, it puts you into a phenomenally strong Soma build with almost, you know, 5,500, 6,000 armor, or it puts you straight into the Seeker with, you know, maybe another sort of, I think 15k points, I think I had a look at. And that's pretty phenomenal because, you know, there's nothing special about this tank. It is as standard as it comes. And I think, you know, for a new player to come into the game, it's not like EVE where pretty much your new player can never really compete. This you can basically go straight into this build, this tank build, focus on tanking, and you'll be ripping people up. You'll be tearing prototypes, prototypes up. And I think it's probably worth having a consideration about this, because again, you don't have to do this on your main. If you have a main character who's running particular fits, maybe you want to put them as a Logi, then why not have a secondary character? Oh, look at that, that's a bit of a troll there. They're trying to hack that car. That's bad. I apologise. I'm sorry. And I think with a second character, it's probably worth having a tanking second character, because again, if you just have a character that focuses exclusively on tanks, for example, you're then using cheap tanks, then you're not actually even going to be out of pocket if you're not very good at it. And plus, I would say with anything in life, practice makes perfect. And I think when you run these tanks, if you're just because you're running militia doesn't mean you can't compete. These things, I actually had I was running up behind a Madruga, and I literally just charged him from behind, and I basically killed him before he could even swivel his turret around. And that's the beauty of these fits, is that even militia isn't bad. I mean, I was rocking the militia AR on a character last night as well, and that militia AR was pretty deadly, I must admit. So I think people always think this is kind of Tech 1, Tech 2 from Eve mentality. Oh well, Tech 1 can never compete with Tech 2. Well, I think the reality is that militia can compete with prototype if you've got the skill then to back it up. And I think these tanks probably prove that, because again, let me be clear, every single one of these 5 tanks we've got in now was a militia fit with not really anything decent on them. Maybe a good turret here and there, but again, the reality was it was either the tier 0 or the meta level 1 turret. So there we go. I would highly recommend everybody have a go with these tanks. Just buy 5. Yeah, it'll probably cost you $1 million ISK, and you'll have so much fun with it, I promise you. And I think just run them as a sensible approach. And there we go, 27 and 1, not bad. I mean, a few shotgun kills there, obviously, but if this is a great tactic, and I really would recommend people give it a go. And again, with the fact that you're using militia vehicles means that there's no barrier to entry. You don't need dedicated tankers. You can all basically just say, right, let's have a bit of fun this round. Everybody call in a tank, and when they're all dead, go back to infantry. And I tell you what, you will have a blast. I tell you now. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you next time.